And we are live. Although it would be good if you could actually hear me say that. There we go. We are live. And I think the audio is working even. It's the little things in life, isn't it? Okay. We're 15 minutes. If you're watching this on the replay, we are 15 minutes away from really starting. This is the pre-show. So you can fast forward 15 minutes, or you can hang out and just watch whatever it is that I do during this pre-show thing. It is gripping video as I update web links and post in chat rooms and check other things. I check camera angles, that type of thing. You really can't beat that. That's good stuff. So let's change the website. Da, 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 da. Where would that be? It would be on my under settings. There it is. Is that it? Yes. My bar. Okay, we want this to say my free live A+ study group is right now. Click here to join us. And then we'll point to /live. And save the changes. And reset the cookie. It's a cookie. And empty all the caches. Let's see what that looks like, shall we? Let's bring up a different browser and go to professormesser.com. And there's the website. And look, it says A+ study groups right now. Click here to join us. Let's join it. And let's hear what it's like when we join this. Let's see if how gripping this is. Professormesser.com. And there's the website. And look, see? It says A+ study groups. Audio does work. That's great. Oh, I need to turn this down a little bit in my ear. I cleaned out my headphones. I can hear stuff now. Let's not talk about that. That was a thing that happened. Socrative is up and running, so you can even answer the questions on Socrative. So that helps as well. What else? Everything else is set up to automatically go. We can do cameras. Let's do cameras. We got camera 1. Hello, camera 1. I got to adjust those lights. Camera 2. Camera 3. I want to get camera 4 up with the actual content the camera 4 will be displaying, because then it's a real test. All right, camera 4 is there. All right. That's all good. That's alive. That's how about the opening graphic? There it is. So that's good. Okay. That works. Oh, we're caught in the middle there. All right. I'm digging it. Uh-oh. Hitting stuff I shouldn't be hitting. Knocking stuff over. I shouldn't have music. Don't have music, because then YouTube will flag this and nobody will be able to see it. So no humming. So that's something anyway. What a lovely, lovely day. Let's see if we can get air conditioning going. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Let's get that going. What is it set to? I think it's pretty good shape. Recordings are ready. I might as well start that recording. Might as well start this one too. One less thing for me to worry about. There. There. Da, 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 da. All right. Hello, chat room. Yeah, I got the glasses on today. Why? Because I didn't put my contacts in. It's really that complicated. because it makes me look intelligent. We're going to go with that anyway. I don't know how it makes me sound, but we're going to pretend that that's the case. Socrative is up and running. Okay. That's all working. That's all working. And great. Now Steve is completely changing the language we're using in the chat room. So you guys talk amongst yourselves, I guess. My ability to speak German is limited to everything that was in Castle Wolfenstein. That is it. Da, 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 da. There it is, Socrative.com. And in fact, I got a slide. We can put up a slide. Nope, that's not the slide. Who did that? That's the slide. There's the slide. Go to Socrative.com. Click the student login button. Go to the room called Professor Messer. All one word, spelled the way it is on the screen. I know I don't have to say spelled the way that it's spelled. Spelled the or you'll be in the wrong room. You'll be in an empty room. It's like you're sitting there waiting for the class to start. Where's the teacher? Where's all the other students? Where's everyone? I'm in the wrong building. So now you're in the right building. With Socrative. It is Socrative. I had to do research on that. Is it Socrative? Is it Socrative? Is it Socrative? So there you go. How are we doing on time? We're doing pretty good. We got 7 minutes. 7 minutes, Mr. Sinatra. 7 minutes. Certainly there's something else to do. I'm going to have to, I usually plan this for the 15-minute buffer at the beginning for when the things go wrong. And unfortunately, things have been okay. I guess I could bring up my Skype, get that ready to go. Whoop. Skype is now ready to go. I could probably bring up that extra web page where I manage all of the things for the callers. Call in. There we go. Let's go to my shows. My shows. We will host a show. Okay. Now we're going to, we got a bunch of A+ stuff today. Bunches of those. What is going on? All right, Twitter. What is going on there? Da, 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 da. Oh, do, 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 do. All right. Really should put this in here for the Socrative to have it ready to go. I do not know why I do not, but I do not. Hit that button. Go to Socrative, go to the student login, go to the room called Professor Messer. I tried to make it shorter, actually. I did play around with some other words to try to make it shorter. All the other words were taken. Alas. That's how it goes. Just when you think you got a plan. I had a plan. I had a plan. All right. Noises are off pretty much. Pretty much. Relatively. Da, 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 da. Dr. Messi was taken, oddly enough. Guy What Says Stuff, taken. Chief Explainer, taken. It's crazy. There's nothing good anymore to be had. 4 minutes, 3.5 minutes, sort of. 4 minutes. Let's play this. Let's get some things going here. Get your act in order, in gear, in thing. So hopefully you folks are ready to take some sample questions here that I put together. It should be good. Am I competing with Star Wars as well at 12 noon Eastern? Something Star Wars related happening, and I'm the one between everybody in that? I'm competing with that? It's a really good question. I'm sure there's a Star Wars person who can tell me this. So, but of course, this is when it is. This is the time that it happens, so this is going to be how it goes down. I don't know. I just saw a tweet from John Boyega. Did I say that right? How do you pronounce his name? Of course, you can't tell me. But he tweeted 7 minutes ago, or a few minutes ago, 7 minutes, as if there's a thing that's happening. Like, what? Or he's watching the study group, of course. What was I thinking? He's merely getting ready to study his A+ certification materials, because that's what you do when you're in a hit franchise movie like that. Did you see that video of him watching the trailer? That was pretty cool. Like, right on. That's the way it's supposed to work. Do something great like that. That's how you're supposed to feel. There is 2 minutes. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. There is all right. There's that. Okay. Fighting with chords today. A lot of chords. A lot of chordy things. Yeah, it's good. You know, maybe he's hanging out in the trailer. They're probably getting ready to do a ton of traveling, aren't they? A ton of press. It's all about the press at this point. I don't know if they're really going to need to do a ton of press, really. It just makes sense. Da, 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 da. This is good. This is great, actually. I say figure. Ask me tomorrow, I'll say Lego. It's a tough call. It's a tough call either way. Gotta tell you. All right. There's probably a point here where we need to do a study group. So let's put this over here. Let's do this over here. Get some more real-time stuff happening here. Real-time is good. All right. Let's do a study group. Look at that. Top of the hour. You guys are a few seconds behind, but that's okay. We will start anyway. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the November 2015 Professor Messer A+ Study Group. We are into the holiday season already, aren't we? I'm not sure which holiday it is, but that's generally what they say about this time of the year. In fact, we're a little bit ahead of schedule. We usually do these a week or two after this, but I moved everything up so that we could all travel somewhere for the Thanksgiving holiday here in the United States. If you're not in the United States, it doesn't really matter. In fact, we should travel to your country and then discover there's nothing going on for that. So for the people that do watch in the U.S., thought I would do that. And for Mrs. Professor Messer, who thought it would be best if I was not in here when the turkey, or in our case, the turducken, was being made, I thought it might be a good idea to work that out. So we're a little ahead of schedule. I'll do this also in December. So if you're somebody who's looking at this, make sure you check our schedule so that you'll know exactly what's going on with the exact study groups, when we're having them. You can go to professormesser.com/calendar, and it will tell you all about that. This is the monthly study group. I do one of these a month. I do one for A+, I do one for Network Plus, I do one for Security Plus. So really, I do 3 a month. You know what I'm saying. I also will take calls after this first hour, so make sure you make a note of that. You can also see the phone number on the live page, professormesser.com/live. And how is it possible, Amar, for you to contact and participate with Professor Messer? Why? I'm glad you asked. You simply go into the chat room and you put it in there and you are contacting and participating. And I will also tell you more about that in just a moment too, how you can click a button and vote and put your answers in with these questions as well. This is something I do. If you'd like to follow the other videos that I do all the time, including a number of brand new A+ videos that will shortly be introduced and released, you can go to professormesser.com/YouTube and subscribe. Even if you don't want to, go to youtube.com and subscribe, because it's just a good thing for you to do. It should make you feel good, because it makes me feel good when you do that. You should also check out our Twitter at professormesser.com/Twitter. Get your daily pop quiz question for A+. And I have vouchers as well. Our folks at GTS Learning have given us some vouchers, discounts. So if you go to professormesser.com/vouchers, get 10% off of the voucher. So that's nice there as well. There is also, just by watching this, if you already have your A+ certification, you can get continuing education units. So make sure that you go through and check those out. There's a very long URL now. CompTIA just updated their website, and so everything has a new URL. And if you go there, you'll be able to find this. Just search for continuing education units, and there's a list there of everything you would need to know about this. So for A+, if you watch 1 CEU per hour is what you will get. So at the end of this hour, sometime during the hour, I will give you a code word that will allow you to get this CEU. And you can get up to 4 of these for your A+. Unfortunately, you won't be able to look at all of them, to get all of your CEUs by watching the study group. Wouldn't that be great if you were able to do that? You can watch 4 of them. Of course, you can send me as many requests as you'd like. CompTIA will only take 4 of them, and I send you a response back. I send you a digital signature back. I digitally sign it with PGP, I guess with GPG. So that way it's yours and only yours, and you can prove that it was yours. If somebody ever asks, did you type this in yourself? Nope, I have a digital signature on this from Professor Messer. This is also thanks to you, I'm able to do these study groups. Of course, you can watch all of my videos from my A+ course online. You will soon be able to watch all of my videos for the new 900 series course online. But of course, you can purchase these videos as well. You can find out more about that at professormesser.com/downloadable A+. And you can absolutely get all of the videos. You can get MP3 files with this. All my slides are available in PDF format. There's closed captioning on all of them. Everything is there. It's really a complete package of all of the videos. So you can find out more about that on the website as well. Well, today, though, I'm going to ask you questions, and you're going to answer the questions in real time, which is kind of a cool thing. So make sure that you go out to Socrative.com and click on the student login button, and you will be able to go out and join the room, Professor Messer. Make sure you spell it right with the Professor Messer, so that it's one of these things where getting into that is important. You need to type exactly the way it's written, Professor Messer, or you'll be in a room all by yourself. And that's really the challenge, of course, is you don't want to be in there by yourself. You should, in fact, see a message on the screen that looks something like this. It will ask you, how long have you been studying for your A+ certification? And if you do that, you can answer, and I'll see the answer on the screen. In fact, it's set up right now dynamically. As you are answering, you can see things are moving here on the screen as it goes back and forth. There is A lot of questions I'll be asking you directly from the A+ certification. You'll be able to answer them. We'll see the responses, and we'll talk through them today and figure out why was that the right answer, why was that the wrong answer, which I think sometimes is just as important as finding out what the right answer might be. There is a lot of information to go through on the A+, and I've got a number of questions for you today to be able to do that. So we will absolutely go through those pieces of it. And you can see here, we've got a number of you are absolutely going through this process. We've got 30% have said less than 3 months. We've got 20% 3 to 6 months, 10% 6 to 9 months, 25% more than 9 months, which is kind of me. Kind of me, the more than 9 months is the way it works for my piece of it. And many of you already have your A+ certification, so make sure you listen in today for your continuing education unit. So that is a good start, I think. Looks like a number of you are already in there and answering the questions, so that seems to be working pretty well with that. So let's do some real questions then. Before we do that, let me remind you that the current A+ exam is the 220-801 exam. This is one of those where whenever I go into looking at the exam, you'll notice on the CompTIA website that the 801 is the current exam, but they have just released the 901. If you watched last month's A+ study group, I went through all of the different things that were new on the 901 exam. I also have a document on my website that also talks about what's new on the 901. I need to put that more at the top of one of my pages so you can find that piece of it. But currently, the only exam you would be able to take right now is the 801. I do not recommend waiting for the 901 because you'll still be able to take the 801 for probably 6 months into next year. So you have plenty of time to take the 801. You really should not wait to get certified. I don't think there's ever a good time to wait to get certified to be able to do that. Let's have a look, though. The 801, of course, is primarily hardware, but of course there's networking there, there's laptops, there's printers, and operational procedures. And of course, you can find out more about those pieces too on the A220-802 is operating systems, security, mobile devices, and troubleshooting. So that is where you go to be able to figure those pieces out and be able to work with them. Make sure that you're going through your 800 series exam and working with those too. Now, I'm going to ask you questions now for this exam, but keep in mind that the questions that I'm asking you, I've got you on the chat room here. If you're on the Professor Messer website, there's a live event chat that you can join. Of course, there's going to be a lot to go through in the chat, but don't answer the questions in the chat room. That sort of defeats the purpose. And no Googling the answers. So those are kind of the standing rules of the chat room, is we want to be sure that we're doing this as if we are sitting down and taking the exam right there, being able to do that. So let's see how we do with this first question, which is, in which of these cases would you need to ping 127.0.0.1? Again, no answering the chat room. I know you want to. I know you know it. Well, if you think you know it, tell me by going to Socrative.com, clicking the student login, and be able to type in the room name Professor Messer. And then you will absolutely be able to answer this question. Now, I have a number of different options available. So this is not just an open-ended question, although I'm trying to remember I might even have an open-ended question on the one today. But let's see how we do. Do we actually put up the right thing on the screen? Maybe we do. Maybe we don't. There we go. The possible answers are, would you do this to verify the TCP IP stack of your computer? Would you do this to confirm connectivity to an external network? Would you do this to test the throughput of a local device? Would it be to communicate to an RFC 1918 private IP address, or would it be to check your DNS settings? One of these things is why you would ever want to ping 127.0.0.1. And if you think you know the answer, go to Socrative.com to the student login and put it into the room Professor Messer. And of course, you can just stay there. Once you have answered the question, just stay in the room and you'll be able to get the questions automatically popping up as I go through them. There is also on Socrative, once you're in there and answering these questions, you'll see that it will automatically move along and get those things rolling. I get to see your answers in real time, though, as you're answering on this side. My goal with this is to get at least 50% of you getting this question spot on. Sometimes I do good. Sometimes everybody knows the answer. Sometimes nobody knows the answer. We'll have to find out with this one as well. But I want to start off with a networking question because a lot of the questions you ask of me during the month are around networking. So we're going to start with that with these pieces. So let's see how we did with this ping command to this odd IP address of 127.0.0.1. Let's see how we did. How did we do? Well, we're sort of all over the place. I would say we got a kind of a tie for first, maybe the top three for those pieces. Well, 36%, which is really, I guess, the largest percentage of these. It's not a majority, but the largest percentage will be to verify the TCP/IP stack of your computer. 28% in the second place would be to test the throughput of a local device. 19% would be to confirm connectivity to an external network. And then we've got 10% and less are the other two options that are on this particular screen. So the real question is, of course, what is this? When would I use 127.0.0.1? This is something whenever you're running into a networking problem. In fact, we ran into a networking problem in the chat room today. This morning, someone had a question about one device being able to ping, another one not being able to ping, and we went through a set of troubleshooting processes, and it follows the same process every time. Step one, check to see if your local machine is working. Does it have an IP stack loaded on it? Is the IP stack working on this local device? And the way you would know that is if you pinged your loopback address. Every IP address in the world has this address internal to its own self. So if you went to a device and you pinged 127.0.0.1, it should always reply back to you that, yes, I'm here. That's a great way to check to see, just is the local IP mechanics working? Is everything, are all the gears working the way they're supposed to work? We're not talking outside of our machine yet. We're just looking to see if the right software is running on our machine and if it's working the way we would expect. Interestingly enough, especially in Windows operating systems, you run into problems all the time with malware that has corrupted the IP stack and other pieces as well. It can be a mess. So one way to check to see is it at least operating properly is to do a loopback check on 127.0.0.1. Then we might want to ping the local IP address that's really assigned to us. And you might want to run a local configuration check, run an ifconfig or an ipconfig, depending on what operating system you happen to be in, and check to see what's your local IP address. Can I at least ping that address? Which tells us, yes, we're able to communicate to the adapter that's on our device. Then can I get even further? The next further thing that I know about would be my local gateway. That's my local router to be able to do this. So we want to at least see, did I get that far? Can I talk outside of my device and get a response back? So that would be the next step, would be to ping my local gateway. If I can get to my local gateway, let's see if we can get to the next step, which would be the other side. Now, if I know my architecture of my network, maybe I know what the next subnet over is, and I know what a local gateway is there, and I have a device I can ping. Maybe the next step is on the internet. So one way to do that was to ping a device on the internet. And of course, if you watch my videos, one of my favorite devices to ping on the internet is the Google DNS server's IP address. So 8.8.8.8. Because it's an easy one for my brain to remember. So I can ping 8.8.8.8, and if I get a response, then I know I'm communicating all the way out to the internet. Now, ideally, we don't go through every single one of these every single time. Very often, we can at least get some feedback of the problem that, okay, our local IP stack is working, or we can get to the local gateway. Let's deal with the internet problem we happen to have. But we're curious about pinging that loopback connection. In fact, that was our question. So the question that we asked, in which of these cases would you need to ping 127.0.0.1? If you were one of the 38% that answered verify the IP stack of your computer, you would have gotten that one absolutely correct. So let's look at these other options, though. Test throughput of a local device. Well, the ping only tests availability. It doesn't test how much information you're able to put through a particular connection. It certainly doesn't test how much throughput your local device is able to provide to other devices, I guess. So testing throughput of a local device would not be the correct answer. Ping is only used for a connectivity test. To be able to trust ping as throughput is not a really good idea at all. 18% of you said confirm the connectivity to an external network. Obviously, 127.0.0.1 is our loopback address inside of our device. So that's not going to be the correct answer because that's asking for an external network. 11% said check your DNS settings. We're pinging an IP address, so the domain name services that is responsible for converting a name to an IP address would not apply here. So we know that that's not the case either. So if we look at the final answer, at least 8% of you said communicate to an RFC 1918 private IP address. And communicating to that, that's a local IP address. This RFC 1918 are our private IPs, the 10.network, the 192.168, the 172.16 through 172.31. So there's the internal local IPs. Again, that's an external IP. So that would not be the right answer. Our correct answer, again, is A, verify the IP stack of the computer. So indeed, we do have that there as well with those pieces and having that there. Let's continue on with some of these and getting those going. Let's work through another question. I have more for you. Of course I have more questions. So let's do another one in the chat room. Oh, before we move on in that chat room, someone's asking about CompTIA releasing the new A+ exams. As of this live event, CompTIA has not released the new A+ exams, probably not this month. We're thinking maybe December. We don't know. It's an estimate. So we're watching every day to see what that is. Let's do another question, shall we? This one is more operating system related, specifically the Windows operating system. And the question deals with Windows ReadyBoost. The question is, which of these are required for Windows ReadyBoost? Remember, no answering in the chat room. No Googling. Stop Googling ReadyBoost. Don't do that. Just see if you can guess it. See if you happen to know it. Now, I have some options for you, of course. I'm not going to leave you hanging. We have, with this, what's required for Windows ReadyBoost? Would it be a Windows domain membership? Would it be a USB flash drive? Would it be 20 gig of available hard drive space? Would it be an Intel Core Duo CPU? Or would it be a BIOS that supports HTT? It's got to be one of those, right? With all of those pieces. Let's see if we can figure that piece out. If you think you know the answer, go to Socrative.com to the student login and go to Room Professor Messer. You'll see this question on the screen when you're there, and you'll be able to answer one of those. This is one of those where I ask these questions trying to think, how can I make it so that half of you will know the answer? I think this one might be easier than that of those pieces. But I think one of these, if we want to give you an easier question than others, some of these are just easier to remember, I think. ReadyBoost is one of those technologies that I think is easy to remember. So this is going to be one of those where you either know it or you just don't know it and you'll take a guess, which is fine too. You should absolutely, on your exams, by the way, take a guess. There is no penalty for getting an answer wrong. In fact, as we understand it, there's no penalty for getting an answer wrong. So don't leave them blank. At least guess on these multiple choices. If you get it wrong, it's the same as if you didn't answer it, as far as we're able to tell. So don't do that as well. Make sure you really understand those pieces and working with it. I think that's an important consideration when you're taking the exam. So if you're trying to figure this out, you don't know what Windows ReadyBoost is, take a stab at it. Take a guess at it, because that's what you really should be doing on the exam as well and working through those pieces. Let's see if what we're able to do there with these pieces and get these things going. Let's see how we did. We've got a number of you that have answered, so I think we can go back to this. I like to at least give you a chance for those to be able to figure that out. How do we do? Well, 51%, 50% said USB flash drive. The next highest number is 22% said you need a BIOS that supports HTT. 14% said you need 20 gig of available hard drive space, and 10% said you need a Windows domain membership, and 5% said an Intel Core Duo CPU. So the question is, which one of these is it then for Windows ReadyBoost? Well, let's have a look at some of these requirements for Windows ReadyBoost. I think the answer becomes very obvious the first slide I put up. What could it be? I don't know. What could Windows ReadyBoost happen to be? Windows ReadyBoost is an interesting technology created by Microsoft, and it's available in Windows Vista, Windows 7, and Windows 8. /8.1. It is using a flash memory, and ideally, I guess it's really a USB key, to increase the speed of the operating system. So it's caching things in memory. Now, you have to have a USB flash drive that's fast enough to do this. Generally, the ones these days are. When this first came out, it was not the case. You really did not have flash. There were some flash drives that could do it, some flash drives couldn't, because the idea is you want to be able to cache things and have it faster than going to the cache that's on your hard drive. So that's an interesting technology. This is a technology that was created really before we started having a very cost-effective SSD solution for our consumer products. So this capability for flash drives, it's a fast access. We can access it via USB. It's faster than a hard drive. Why not use that to speed up the operating system? Now, some cases, I had an older system that using this ReadyBoost capability really did provide a noticeable difference. But I had another one where I installed it and there really wasn't much of a difference there. So it really didn't matter much on my newer systems. And these days, when you really are doing high speed or you need fast type connectivity or fast storage device operating system caching, you use your SSD. I mean, SSD's really replaced this functionality in many ways, although it's still there. If you don't have an SSD, maybe this will help you. Maybe this will be a little faster. So if you have one of these 8 gig flash drives sitting around, give it a shot. Maybe it will speed up your system. So if you're one of the people that answered the 53%, I think my test creation skills were on target with this one. If you answered B, USB flash drive, you would be absolutely correct in that case. Obviously, Windows domain membership means nothing as it relates to ReadyBoost. You don't need Windows domain membership to have that. 20 gig of hard drive space. This has nothing to do with the hard drive that you have. In fact, it's using cache space on the flash drive instead of your hard drive. So actually, you'd be using less hard drive space, and certainly you wouldn't need 20 gig. That's for installing Windows, I think. You would need a lot for those pieces. An Intel Core Duo CPU is not required to use Windows ReadyBoost, and a BIOS that supports hyper-threading technology. That's an Intel term, HTT. That is not required either for Windows ReadyBoost. In the chat room, folks are saying, would USB 2.0 be too slow? It's not. In fact, when this came out, USB 2.0 was really what we were running ReadyBoost on. You don't need USB 3.0. Your flash drives aren't fast enough, and the information we're writing to these flash drives don't really require USB 3.0. Obviously, faster is better, but USB 2.0 gave you the noticeable difference over those slower hard drives that you might find in a laptop or other systems. That's really the benefit there, but it worked great on USB 2.0. Worked fine. So sure, worked great try it on yours. We'll see if that's really the case for the things that you're doing as well. Well, let's change our direction to be more hardware oriented. Again, no answering in the chat room. Don't Google this. Really, this is a question more about hardware. In fact, it's a visual daily double, if you will. It's one that's going to be asking you, what is this? What's this? In fact, I think this is a open-ended question that I've created for you. So you're going to have to type this in. What is this? This is one where you're going to have to type these pieces in. Oh no, I do have answers for you. So good. I didn't do it open-ended. I think I was wanting to. I think I gave you a chance not to do this. So the questions, the possible answers I have for you are these. Would it be IEEE 1394? Is this USB Type A? Is it Centronics? Is it USB Type B? Is it Mini DIN? Is it Mini DisplayPort? Wow, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different options for you to go through to figure out what is this interface. So hopefully you know one of these as well and working through these. I think that really does come in handy. If you think you know the answer, glad you asked. Well, there it is. For those in the chat room asking, we don't have a teacher room code. You have to go to the student room. So if you go to Socrative.com, don't click on the teacher login. That's what I click on. You click on the student login because you're the student with those pieces. And that's really whenever I start working through this, that's where I really work through those. So I think that's useful to have those pieces go through there as well. Yeah, make sure you spell it right for those. I bet many of you know what this one is. In fact, I'm going to sneak a peek here on this side and see how we're doing. You're doing pretty well with this one. Doing pretty well with this particular question. What is that interface that we are looking at? So make sure you go to Socrative and try that out yourself. Hopefully you got in there and we're able to answer that one. Yes, go to the student side, not the teacher side, and you'll be fine. On your CompTIA A+ exam, they might give you a question like this where they show you a picture of something and say, what is it? So you not only have to understand what these things are functionally and understand what descriptive they are, but you also have to be able to look at pictures of these and answer as well. So let's see what you did when you looked at the picture. How did you do? Click this, and well, we've got another one. At least this time it's a majority. 55% have said this is a USB Type B, but is it? 16% said USB Type A. We kind of dropped off a lot after that one. 13% said IEEE 1394. Nobody said Syntronics. Where's my Syntronics people? No? With this one, being able to work with it? That's disappointing, isn't it? We also have Mini DIN. You said Mini DIN, and a few of you said Mini DisplayPort. So let's look at this. In this particular case, I think I don't even have my USB slide up. I'm gonna find my USB slide real quick. While you're looking at this, I'm gonna pull this up because this is a USB, and I want to show you what these are, because you'll need to know this USB side both for the 220-801, and if you notice, the 220-901 has these there as well. So it's important that you know both of these types of computer interfaces, the speeds and the distances. You have to know all of these when you're working through them. In this case, we are dealing with USB 2.0. Let me bring this up so you can see it. There it is. So the USB 2.0, in fact, there's the picture I grabbed. This is a standard USB standard B plug, and you'll notice that it is in this category of a USB 1.1/USB 2.0 connector type. So when we went to USB 3.0, they're new connectors. So more things you're going to have to learn for the exam. We're probably all very familiar with this Type A plug that we're usually plugging into our computers. The Type B plug's usually on the other side. It's usually on the component we're connecting to. It might be on a printer. I had an old MP3 player that used a standard B plug to connect to it. It was obviously a lot larger than the ones we use these days. And of course, you have the mini B plug and the micro B plugs as well. USB 3.0 has a similar plug. In fact, it's backwards compatible with the 2.0 plug on your computer. But notice the standard B plug in USB 3.0 looks a little different. It is a little different because it's much faster and has other capabilities in it. The micro B plug is also very different. We added on a whole little new section here for the micro B. So I guess we can all complain again that indeed we're having to swap out all of our cables now to go to 3.0. No one will complain about that, by the way, because I guess it's not Apple. It's only fun if you complain about it when it's Apple, I guess, is the way that it works. So if you're one of the folks who answered, the 57% of you said USB Type B, you would be absolutely correct with those pieces. That is one of the things whenever you're working through these, you do have to know what they look like. And even in the chat room, people are saying, yeah, it is good to know what they look like to be able to work with those. In fact, this is a very good opportunity for you to, when you're watching my videos and going through these pieces and trying to figure out what do these things look like, I've already taken all of this information and put it into a single set of documents for you. It's my course notes. I have my 220-801 and my 220-802 course notes where I've taken all the images, all the graphics, all the slides I create, all the charts that I create, all the text that's important for your exam, I put into these course notes. So whether you're looking at the 220-801 or the 220-802, I've got course notes that really takes everything and wraps it up quite nicely. I'll show you what these look like. In fact, here are the course notes. I've got them on my screen, the 220-801 on the left side and the 220-802 on the right side. So in fact, the information we need about the Type B plug, there it is. There's the picture of the Type B plug on these course notes. Obviously, the 802 has things like command lines, and all the command lines that you'll need to know are in these course notes. I've just created everything and put them in one place for you. And this is also a great opportunity. If you've enjoying my videos, you'd like to help support what we're doing on the site, every dollar of this goes back to keeping things running on ProfessorMesser.com. So have a look at it. You can try them, see what they're about here. You can see on the page at professormesser.com/A+CN, or you can click the link from the main homepage for the course notes. There's also in the pull-down menu on any page of the site as well. I tried to put everything in there so that you could just go to one place. It doesn't replace the videos. It doesn't replace the book you're reading. It's a place where you can have your notes, just as if you were creating notes for yourself. So it's a good, I think, review before going into the exam to be able to see that. Again, professormesser.com/A+CN. Let's do another question. Let's keep this thing going. I've got a question that deals with a utility of some kind. Let's see what this utility does. The question specifically is, in which of these would you be most likely to use the SFC utility? And this is something that actually is a pretty handy utility because it does one of these things. Let's see what it does. Does it identify corrupted OS files? Does it rebuild a boot sector? Does it view USB interface power usage? Does it revert to a previous OS configuration? Or does it configure the operating system startup menu? What does the SFC utility do? If you think you know, don't answer in the chat room. Simply go to Socrative.com, go to the student login, and go to the room that is called Professor Messer. You'll have to type that in, PROFESSORMESSER. So go to that room and you'll be able to answer what this happens to be. This comes in handy also when working through these things. This becomes really useful to go through these pieces. So if you aren't sure, take a stab at this. The 22801 has no command line utilities in it. The 22802 has all of the command line utilities in it. Now that changes on the 900 series exams. They're not out yet, but when they are finally released, the 22901 and 22902 both have command line utilities in them. And there's a lot more command line utilities now in the 900 series because they've added on Mac OS and Linux. So there are over 20 new command lines, you have to know. Ugh. And it's a tough one. In fact, the video for that one is excruciating. I think I might split it up into two separate pieces because it's so long. There's so many command lines to go through. I'm going to need a part 1 and a part 2 to be able to do that. That's one that I have not shot yet. We're in the process of shooting those videos right now. A number of the videos are already on YouTube, but you can't see them yet. So as soon as the 900 series exam is released, I'll make those public. Another good reason to subscribe to my YouTube channel for those. Well, if you need notes for free, then watch my videos and take notes. It's exactly the same information from the videos, so that will help you as well. And in fact, the 900, 901, 902 course notes are already completed. They're not obviously not available yet because the exam's not available yet. So there would be. I don't have a donation button on my site to do that. I just don't do it. I prefer not doing that. So I don't have one. So the course notes would be a good way to do that. So let's see how we did. Which of these would be the would you be most likely to use SFC? So 63% really think it's to identify corrupted OS files, but is it? This is one of those questions that you either know it or you don't. So I'm wondering, did we get this one wrong? 63%. Let's see. Would it be 14% said rebuild a boot sector, 15% said configure the operating system startup menu, and we got single digits for the others in being able to work with this. So what would the SFC be used for? Well, SFC, if you know the name, you sort of can figure it out because SFC stands for System File Checker. This checks your system files. It's really not much more difficult than that, is it? It is a really useful utility because there are things out there in the world that can corrupt your system files. Of course, I guess it can absolutely do that through a corrupted storage device. But of course, being able to work with these things, being able to understand the utilities themselves, there's other things out there like malware. There's a perfect example of where SFC really helps. In fact, I think the malware piece is where you really have most people doing this. And SFC is in my course notes. So for those of you that didn't see it, it's in there. One of the things that I like to do, especially when working after a malware infection has occurred, and unfortunately a lot of people will prefer cleaning the malware rather than fixing the malware. And by fixing, I mean completely nuking the malware configuration, nuking the operating system completely. That's really the only way to completely remove malware. But once you have hopefully removed malware, that is where SFC can help you, because you've gotten rid of the malware, but what you haven't been able to fix is the destruction the malware has left in its wake. So one way to check to see, how's my operating system? Are all the operating system files okay? Run an SFC. And the SFC, you can see the example here, SFC/scan now will begin a system scan, and it does take some time to go through all of these files on there to be able to do this. And it will find if there's anything, it will identify files. In fact, here it found some corrupt files and repaired them, which is great. That's what we want this utility to do. And then you reboot and you're good. That's what SFC is good for. This is one of those things, of course, that that being able to work through these pieces, it comes in so handy. I think if you have malware, you should completely nuke your operating system and reload. That's really the only 100% guaranteed way to be assured that you absolutely got rid of this. But for the folks that are running the operating systems today, and you just want to check to see, SFC can be really useful for that, working through those pieces. So, and it's one of those things. I guess we could go back and forth over philosophies and why we would want to do that, but absolutely we should think about how scanning is good or not in those pieces. And it won't hurt the operating system, which is good. It's fixing parts of the operating system. Of course, you should always have a backup. Don't rely on SFC. Don't rely on your ability to clean a piece of malware, which is becoming increasingly more difficult to do. You should absolutely not do that. So if you're one of the 63% that said identify corrupted OS files, you would be absolutely correct. Configuring operating system menus is not what SFC is used for. BCD Edit is the one you use on the most recent versions. Boot.ini would be another one for the older Windows versions. Rebuilding a boot sector is not what you would use. Those would be other utilities to be able to do that. I think I might be asking about one, so I'm not going to go into details there. Reverting to a previous OS configuration and viewing USB power usage, definitely not with those pieces too. So that's where, whenever I start working through this, I think that really becomes handy for those. If you think you're not quite certain on these, this would be a great opportunity to download perhaps one of the virtual machines from Microsoft, load up your Windows operating system in this VM, and run some of these commands. I probably wouldn't do this on my own system because you never know what's going to happen when you run a utility. It should not cause any problems with the operating system, but you want to be sure to go through these pieces and have them available for you. So make sure you check that system file checker on yours. You do need to know it for your certification exam. It is one of the exam objectives to be able to do that. So let's do another question. I've got more for you. This question, printers. You folks said I can't get enough laser printer. Well, I'm going to give you laser printer. So here you go. This is when you go through there. I'll talk later on in the after show about virtual machines and Microsoft. For those of you wondering, where can I download Windows as a VM? Well, Microsoft's already got them for you. We'll do some of that in a bit. That'll give you a reason to hang out for the after show and be able to work with those pieces. So which of these determines the type of printer language that's sent to a network laser printer? Which one of those? Which one? So it's going to be one of these particular options. Would this be determined by the network interface? Would it be determined by the printer driver, by the print server, by the printer configuration, by the operating system version? It's going to be one of those, right? And working with those. So let's figure out which one of those. Of course, everybody in the chat room, I can tell those of you that are watching the replay who can't see the chat room, that everyone in the chat room loves printers. It's amazing how much love there is in the chat room for printers. Remarkable how that works. So maybe you know the answer. No Googling. Don't answer in the chat room, but go out to Socrative.com to the student login to the Professor Messer room, and you can answer this one, and we'll see how you did. I'm going to peek while you're doing that. Oh, you guys are doing pretty well with this one. Again, I'm trying to hit my 50% mark and those pieces. Chat room's not very happy with me right now about me mentioning how much they love the printers. Printers are still a bit of a challenge. I think that's why they are so much on they're an entire section of the 801 exam. Interestingly enough, in the 900 series exam, there's no longer a printer domain. So the printer section has been wrapped into domain 1, which is hardware. What's interesting, though, is there's actually more printer content. They didn't get rid of any content. They kept more content on there to be able to work with them. And indeed, if you're a question in the chat room, if you're trying to figure out what a printer language is as part of the question, then you're just going to have to take a guess, because that's a major part of this question. In fact, it's a two-step question. I'm not only really asking you, and you'll notice a lot of my questions do this, I'm asking you about a printer language without telling you what that possibly could be. So you have to know what a printer language is. And then I have to tell you how you figure out what is going to determine what the printer language is going to be sent to a printer. So there's really two steps to be able to go through this piece and understand all these pieces. I think that's really the biggest challenge with these, and being able to work through them. I think that can be very, very useful. So let's see how we did on answering this one. I think some of you did pretty well with this one. I haven't peeked lately, so let's see how we did. And really one big winner here. Is it the right winner? I don't know. We'll find out. I do know. What am I saying? You don't know. Printer driver got 65% of the answers. Number 2, way back at 14% is printer configuration. 10% of you said the network interface, and then single digits for print server and operating system version. So this is where you need to know what the answer might be. So let's go through this piece of it. The real key, and what we're really going to be talking about, are the printer drivers. Whenever you are communicating to a printer, and we talked about this even in the chat room this week, the printer that you're talking to, you need to make sure that you and the printer are on exactly the same page, figuratively speaking. Go with the pun. The printer language that you're going to be communicating back and forth is an important one. Some printers will speak different languages. Now they don't usually often speak multiple languages at the same time, but some do. So the printer itself is going to be configured to speak a particular language. Take, for instance, in my studio, I have a Brother laser printer. To talk to that Brother laser printer, I have to get exactly the right printer driver, and I tell it that this laser printer is set up to speak Brother's printer language back and forth. Usually it's a type of language very close to the HP printer language, printer control language, PCL. So it's talking this language back and forth so that whenever I'm creating a document and sending it to the printer, it receives and understands the language. Just as if the language was speaking, the printer may have been speaking English or German or Russian or French or Spanish, it's speaking printer language. Now, some printers can be configured maybe to speak PostScript, which is a different printer language. So if my printer is set up to only understand PostScript, I need to make sure that I'm using the printer driver that speaks PostScript to this printer. That's pretty important. Otherwise, you're going to send information to the printer, and it's going to print information out, and it's going to look like garbage because you sent it the wrong language. It's like trying to speak Russian to someone who only understands French. And there are printers that are bilingual that will understand both a Brother language and PostScript. There's HP printers that will understand HP's language and PostScript. And some of those you can do that. Some printers indeed only speak PostScript. Some of the older ones only speak PostScript. So you want to make sure that you give the right driver, because there are some drivers. This is a very good example. This screenshot's perfect. Let me look. Look at this LaserJet. I'm in this screen where I'm choosing which printer driver I want to use for this particular configuration. So what do I load on this person's machine? And they have a HP LaserJet 8100. So which one? Is it talking the printer control language? Is it talking printer control language 6? Is it talking PostScript? So it's the same physical printer, but how is it configured? Is it configured to talk PCL, PCL6, or PostScript? And if it's a printer that can speak all three of those, which one do you choose? It may make a difference depending on what the user is doing. If somebody who's doing some very high-end work that will be sent out for advertising and doing graphics work, they probably want to use PostScript, because if you print on this PostScript printer, it will look the same if you print on any other PostScript printer. PCL is a printer control language specific to HP, which means it will look the same on every HP printer. That may not be what you want to do. So that's why choosing the right printer driver is going to determine what language is sent to the printer. So if you were one of the 63% of you that answered printer driver, would be absolutely correct. So that determines the type of printer language that is sent to the printer from your machine. So in fact, if it's a printer that is bilingual, some people can send it PostScript, other people could send it PCL all at the same time. So it's very interesting. The driver and the printer don't necessarily work together all the time. So you can send it PCL and it's not going to stop you from doing it, even if it doesn't understand PCL. Kind of a problem. This is not really a trick question though. This is how printer drivers work. And this is really important that when you're working through the configurations of printer drivers, you have to get it exactly right. There is no room for deviation. And that's the important part of this particular question, is if you're installing a printer, find out exactly the model, find out exactly how it's configured, and choose the correct printer driver for what you're doing. Very, very useful to be able to have that there. So let's do another question, shall we? Since a lot of you, and by the way, if you are watching this video for continuing education units, you want to be able to send me a secret code so that I know you watched this video. So you would go to the top or the bottom of the Professor Messer website. You would click Contact Us, which is really Contact Me. And in there, you would put that you put your name, you put that you watched the November 2015 A+ study group, and you would put in the special code word of PostScript. PostScript is the secret word to be able to do that. So make sure you send that. If you do that, I will send you back a digitally signed certificate in your email that says, you must have watched this because you knew the secret word for this. Now, in the meantime, I want to do another question. Got other things for this to be able to work through. So let's do another one. Let's move over to mobile devices, shall we? That's an important part of the CompTIA A+ certification, are these pieces. So let's see how we did with this mobile question, which is, which of these connectors would you use on an Android device for synchronization? There's a pretty standard piece for these on being able to work through them. So which would it be? Would it be a USB micro B? Would it be a Lightning? Would it be USB type A? Would it be a proprietary 30 pin? Or would it be Firewire? One of these is what you would really most likely find on any Android device and being able to work through it. You should absolutely go through and see if you can answer these things as well. If you know the answer, don't answer in the chat room. Go to the Socrative.com link that you see here, be able to answer those pieces. And you don't need to send me the answer on the chat either, because I just click it away. I can't really type back to you at the moment. I'm sorry. Go to Socrative, go to the student login, go to the Professor Messer room. Some of you probably have an Android device and you know what the interface is. You can cheat and look at the bottom of your device and figure this out. This does come in handy, though, if you are someone who is supporting a lot of Android devices, somebody who's working through and connecting to these devices. Maybe you're managing a mobile device manager. You have a lot of people with mobile devices, and you have to make sure you know where they are. And if you have company information on there, you need to be able to manage those devices properly. Make sure you know this as well. This is one of those where working through this is going to be important for the exam as well. Not only for the 801 and 802, really the 802 for the mobile devices, but boy, the 900 series exams go into detail with mobile devices. They really improved and increased the amount of information you need to know for these mobile devices. And synchronization is certainly a large part of that. They expanded on nearly every section of the mobile devices and the things you need to know. So there was and that is good. I agree that is a good thing to absolutely be able to work through and have those pieces available. Maybe you know what those things are, and if so, we'll have to see how you answer. Let's go and see, how do we do? I'm going to click the big orange button. And my 50% goal really did not hit at that point and being able to figure those out. But 89% of you said USB micro B. Now, 9% of you said USB type A. And 2% of you said Lightning. But nobody said proprietary 30-pin. Nobody said FireWire on those pieces on here. Yeah, I'm dealing only, and some of you said, well, you could do this wirelessly, you know. Yes, you could, but I was speaking specifically for physical connectivity because you are asked about physical connectivity on your exam. So let's see how we did with this one. There are a number of different synchronization connections for these mobile devices. You can see that they are right here. If you're running iOS, which would be more of an Apple device, it is a USB connection on these, and you can absolutely go through this. And there's the older 30-pin connector on the Apple devices and the newer 8-pin Lightning for those, being able to work through those. There's also, of course, wireless, and you can run through the mobile network as well. Now you can do a lot of that on these mobile devices. Just use the existing mobile network to be able to synchronize, in the case of Apple, to the iCloud. On Android, it's primarily also a USB connection, but the connector type on the device itself is a USB type micro B connector. It's the smaller connector you can see at the bottom of the screen here. And I had the picture up earlier of the micro B. And of course, they'll do wireless and they'll do the mobile network as well with those. So if you think you know what those are, if you think you did know what those were, USB micro B, the 76% of you said, indeed, it's the USB micro B. It was not the Lightning, not the USB Type A, not the proprietary 30-pin, not the FireWire connector. If you have an iOS device, certainly the Lightning. Notice that I did ask, some of you got thrown and answered USB Type A. The piece that you need to work through, one moment please, I need to fix a few things on my screen. There, now things work. There is, the question was, which of these connectors would you use on an Android device for synchronization? You would most likely, of course, use USB Type A on your computer for that piece of it, but you would not use USB Type A on the Android device. So again, make sure you look very closely at those pieces so that you know in the question that's being asked exactly what the question might be. That's an important part of this as well. There's a lot that you have to know for this exam. There's a ton that you have to know for this exam. And when you get into the 802 exam, especially because you're dealing with operating systems, you're dealing with understanding mobile devices, you're dealing with security and networking configuration. You have to troubleshoot security and networking configuration, which I think is even more of a challenge because now you have to know all the command lines. You have to know all the command line switches. You have to know how to use those when you're troubleshooting. And if you've never set up the operating systems, you've never installed the operating system, you've never gone to the command line in an operating system, that can be a bit of a challenge in trying to figure out those pieces. So I think it's also very important when you're working through a troubleshooting that you have something to work on. You don't necessarily want to work on your own computer because especially if you're reconfiguring a master boot record, that can be an issue when you're going through your own system. You don't want to mess up your master boot record. So one of the options you might have is to run things in a virtual machine. But of course, now you'd have to set up your own Windows XP VM, your own Windows Vista, your own Windows 7, and you have to have all those running on your own systems. They have to, of course, be in front of your computer to do that. But wouldn't it be easier if all of those virtual machines and the labs and the step-by-step of exactly what you needed to do was all available for you, all online in the cloud with GTS Learning's Live Labs? They have set up for us a complete set of labs for the 220-802. And it's one that can really provide you with some perspective of exactly what you need to know. In fact, I've got live labs going. I'm booting one of their VMs now. They've got all the labs right here. I'm doing a boot troubleshooting lab that takes you through step one, examining the Windows boot files. And you can pop these out as a separate screen too. So I'm running them all on one screen so you can kind of see this and you can see my big head's in the way. Let's see if I can remove myself from the equation so you can really get a feel for this. So I've got the labs on the right side, and now I'm able to step through all of the labs step by step. It tells me exactly what to type and how to type it. So there's a real Windows operating system you're working on. It's not a fake screen. It's not an emulated view. This is an actual VM. So here's the Windows. It just booted up. So now I'm able to run through Windows just like I would normally It's a Windows config. Look how fast that is. And I didn't have to load up anything special on my screen. I didn't have to do anything extra on my system. I can use it like any other Windows operating system and go through the labs and use it exactly the way they'd like us to. Now, there's labs here, not just for, I'm doing one for boot troubleshooting. They have support labs here for Windows 7, system administration, user account management, file management, disk management, applications, XP, and on and on. You can see they're all listed here. One advantage, I think, of using these as well is that you can try it for free. So you don't have to worry about having a high-speed connection because it's just screenshots that you're getting. You don't have to worry about downloading any VMs because all the VMs are out there on the network already for you to use. Very easy, and you can try it for an hour for absolutely free. This also comes with all of GTS's books online, so you can go through your 802, 801, 802 study guides there. They've also got questions that you can run through with these, so very useful to have that there and be able to work with those. You might want to give these a shot yourself. And special pricing if you're coming from my website. If you go to the GTS Learning website, you'll pay a certain amount. But if you go to the Professor Messer website /live labs, professormesser.com/live labs, special price $99, and you can try it for free for an hour and see if that works. So that's a very useful thing to have there as well. And we want to thank GTS Learning. They're a big supporter and a sponsor of what we do here. I want to thank them also for making these special pricing available to you. So very useful to have that. Let's do another question, shall we? I have one for you. Since we're talking networks and the things that are there, I want to know about private IP addresses. No answering in the chat room on this one because this is one people are really going to have to look at. Which of these would not be a private IP address? And I've given you a listing of addresses here. So is it 192.168.22.7? Is it 172.10.77.2? Is it 10.168.77.2? Is it 172.30.77.2? Is it 10.77.77.2? Is it 192.168.192.168? Or are these all private IP addresses? So there you have to really figure this out for this. And it's not, no, the live labs are not $99 an hour. It's $99 for a year, and you get an hour for free to try it out. That would be the worst deal ever, where you're going to have to go through the live labs. You got to be really fast because it's $99 an hour. No, it's $99 for the year. Much better than $99 an hour to go through those. So which one of these would not be a private IP address? I love questions like this because now we really got to know IP addresses and being able to work through them. That would be really very, very useful to have that there. So let's see if we know which one of these. What? You hate IP addresses more than printers? How can that be possible? How is it that would be the case? Can't possibly be the case. Private IP addressing is a big section. There's a thing you have to know. It's clearly written on the CompTIA exam objectives, the 22801. Interestingly enough, since we are talking about differences between the 800 series and 900 series, the 800 series has a lot of broad networking on there, a lot of broad things you need to know. The 900 series networking is kind of different. They really focus more on the 900 series from networking from the end user's perspective. So you don't have to know all of the things that a network administrator needs to know on the 900 series. It really focuses more on what do you need to know to be able to troubleshoot. But even in both of those, you need to be able to do this. You need to be able to understand these pieces of it and work through it. And private IP addressing is an important one to know as well. So let's see how we did with the private IPs. Which of these would not be a private IP address? How do we do? We're all over the place. We're not really sure. There's no clear winner. In fact, I'd say it's a tie all the way down. Well, except for the last one. The clear winner, I guess, more than double what any other answer, almost double what any other answer did, was these are all private IP addresses, is that one. Now, the second most popular one here, 19%, 172.77.2. So there's another option for us. But everything else is kind of in the 10 and 11% range. Private IP addresses are important because that is what we are generally using in IPv4 on our internal networks. So this is one where we got to know what these IP addresses are. If you see one of these, you need to recognize immediately that's a private IP. It must be inside my own organization. It's not going to go out to the internet. That's one of the real valuable ones here. No, there's only one answer on this one. Only one of these would not be a private IP address and being able to work through these. So this would be an interesting one to figure out. Fortunately, on the exam, I have a list of things for you here to be able to work through this. So the list of things, here it is. I have a whole chart that I've already built out for you so you can figure this out. The important column we're interested in is obviously the first one. This is the range of IP addresses. Now, the range that is the first range, the 10 dot range, we call it, because it goes from 10.0.0.0 through every other possible IP address that starts with 10. So 10.255.255.255. I haven't given the answer yet, so we're still stepping through it. So anything that has the 10 in front of it is a private IP address. If it's 10.1.1.1, it's private. If it's 10.255.255.254, it's private. It's private if it has a 10 in front of it. That's easy to remember. Another range, 172.16.0.0 through 172.31.255.255. So we can't really call this the 172 network because it's kind of a subset. It's from 172.16 through just before 172.32. 172.31, 255, 255. So that's one where we haven't got the entire range there. It's a section of that. So we do have to remember 172.16 through 172.31 and anything else at the end of that. And down here, 192.168.0.0 through 192.168.255.255. So that one we could say that's your 192.168 network, because anything that starts with 192.168 is also a private IP address. So would it be with these and being able to work through it? That is one where it does come in handy to know these things. So let's look at our list and see if we can figure out what these are. Again, no answering in the chat room. This is what we're trying to do and figure these things out. Let's see how we did on this particular one. So we've got 192.168.22.7. Well, we know the 192.168 is absolutely one of those. So that becomes useful. Let me make another change here. We have 192.168. Everything 192.168 is private, so that would not be our answer. 172.10.77.2. Aha. Already in here, I think we may be on to something, because 172.16 through 172.31 are private, but if it's 172. Anything else, it is not a private IP address. So B would certainly apply here. 19% of you said B. So if you said B, we know that's at least one of them, right? Is there more than one? I don't think there is, but let's be sure. So 10.168.77.2, anything that starts with a 10 is private. So that's not the case either. 172.30.77.2 does fit into our range, where you have 172.16 through 172.31. So a .30 is between 16 and 31, so that is a private IP address. 10.77.77.2 starts with a 10. It's a private IP. 192.168, regardless of what the rest of the address is, anything that starts with 192.168 is a private IP address. These are not all private IP addresses. The one that is not a private IP address would be B. If you answered B, 172.10.77.2, you would be absolutely correct. So well done with that one. You got that one right. Well, we have come to the end of an hour, I can't believe it, of sample questions and all of the other things that we do. That was quite an involved group of them. And I hate that we ended on that one, because that one was one that we just threw a lot of things at you to see if you could really go through. But unfortunately, on the exam, they're going to ask that of you as well. Now, if you're here for the study group, we, of course, have another hour of the study group. I like to just open up the phone lines and take questions from the chat rooms as well, so we can go through those pieces. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the 900 series exam. And I promised to tell you where you could get Microsoft virtual machines for Windows to use legally and absolutely free. We'll do that in just a moment as well. But for those of you that need to step out, I understand completely. An hour of this may be enough for you. But come back because we've got more to come in the after show. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Remember that we've got a lot more happening on the website throughout the month. Make sure that you understand also about the next study group, because the next study group is at a different time here in the December the 2nd is the next study group. And if you're watching this on the replay and December 2nd, it's a long time ago, you can, of course, go to professormesser.com/calendar and you'll be able to find out exactly when the next A+ study group is. Well, we're through this one, but of course, there's a lot going on. I've got my daily pop quiz every day on Twitter. Of course, all my videos on YouTube, and the 900 series videos will be coming out soon. You may want to consider subscribing to that. Make sure you check out my course notes at professormesser.com/A+CN. Again, my thanks to GTS Learning for sponsoring this and giving you a discount on those live labs. You can find it at professormesser.com/live labs. Of course, I do this every month. So make sure you know when this is happening by going to the calendar. And of course, thank you. I wouldn't be able to do this without you and being able to do this every month. It's a lot of fun. Thanks for joining us. Stick around for the after show. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on the study group. Thanks, everyone. Woo! That's a lot. There's a lot going on with those pieces. That was a good study group. That went fast. That one kind of snuck up on me. On those pieces. So I apologize if, no, we won't be doing any more Socrative. So if you're on the Socrative, that is all done. We will not be answering any more Socrative questions with these things. So let's go right to the first thing that I mentioned for those of you, and folks have already been putting this into the chat room. The website that really is very useful is modern.ie. And it now redirects modern.ie over to the dev.windows.com, and in the tools pull down is a link for virtual machines. So this is where you can download Microsoft operating systems, and you can choose which VM you're using. I'm on a Mac, so it automatically put me there. I'm just going to choose Windows 8.1. But boy, look at all the options. I could choose XP, Vista, Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 8.1, and Windows 10. Now, obviously, you can't use these for production work. You can only use these if you are doing something with a lab type or development environment, which is exactly what we're doing, isn't it? We need to be able to use this for purposes other than production. And this is great for studying because now you've got a full-blown Windows config. Now the question is going to be the platform. Now in Mac, there are a number of different virtual machine managers that you can use. So this is one where VirtualBox is a free one. VMware has for Windows has a free VMware player, but not for Mac. There's also Vagrant and Parallels, which are options for VM. If we're running in Windows, imagine many of us are, there are a number of options. VirtualBox, absolutely free. Hyper-V, if you're running Windows 7, Windows 8, actually, and later is Hyper-V. That's be an option for you as well. And VMware has a free VMware player that you can download from their website. And VMware player is really a good one if you're running on Windows. VirtualBox, also a very good one for Windows as well. And then you just choose which one you want. If you're running VirtualBox, we'll choose VirtualBox. And then they've got a download here and the installation instructions that tell you exactly what you should do to get this running. It's not very hard at all. You effectively unzip it and you load it into your VM and you're up and running. Poof, you've got a whole version of Windows now on your desktop that you can break. You can do anything you want to it and it's not going to hurt what you're doing on your normal desktop. So very, very useful to have that there in those pieces. I think that's one of those that's there as well. Yeah, if you take, so the question in the chat room, someone's asking about the 800 series. If you've got to obviously have to pass your 801 and your 802 to be A+ certified. Now, let's say you pass the 801, but you don't pass the 802, and the 800 series exams are retired 6 months from now. Would you have to take the 900 series over? Yes, you would have to restart all the way from the beginning. So you really don't have a choice there. That is it. You really have to then come back the next day and be able to take the exam again. And of course, there's a certain retake policy from CompTIA that will tell you how much later you have to wait to take the exam after that for those pieces. So that becomes very useful for those. And I think, but you're not going to fail. Just go in, take the exam. You've got 6 months now to study for these exams. Don't wait until the last minute. Now, if today, let's say today, when we're done with this study group, CompTIA comes out with the 900 series exam. Well, then you do have a choice. You can decide which one you would like to take. There will probably be a 6-month time frame where both exams will be available. That's traditionally CompTIA has provided a 6-month time frame before an older exam is retired. So you get to choose. Do I take the 900? Do I take the 800? And that's going to be based on what materials you have available and how comfortable you feel with both of those exam objectives. I generally think you should take the newer one when an exam comes out, but I recognize that when an exam is first released, there's a limited number of resources available to study for that exam. And of course, everybody who has content is creating this content right now, so as much of it will be available as possible. So all of my videos aren't shot yet, but I'm hoping to have the bulk of them done by the time the exam is released. My study guides and course notes are all done. Some of the videos are already on YouTube. All I got to do is flip the switch so you can see them, but not everything may be there. So now you have to decide, which one do I want to take? Do I wait to take the 900 series? I generally say don't wait. 6 months is plenty of time to plan for an exam. Now, if you're watching this video and we're near the end of that 6-month period, check the CompTIA website for the exact retirement date. Then absolutely don't take the older exam. It's about to be retired. We don't have a release date for the 900 series, so we just don't know when that retirement date's going to be yet. Most rumors on the street put it near the end of this calendar year. So if you're watching this live in December timeframe of 2015, we think the 900 series may be released, but it could be released sooner, could be released later. It's up to CompTIA. That's it. That's the way they do it. And I will have the 900 series course notes available at that time. As soon as they release them, I'll flip the switch and you'll be able to buy them on my website, but it's not something that's available because there's no 900 series exam yet. There's no reason to have it. So that's one of those that does come in handy for those pieces. Well, let me start the phone line so we can get into this. If you wanted to chat on the phone lines, I've got a phone number here that's not available yet. I guess, yes, you could call right now and you'd be put in the queue, but I'm not there yet. And I got to tell you, that's kind of the most important part of this when I'm dealing with it. Now, we've had problems with this in the past, and I've called the nice Skype lady just to make sure that I can hear her and that she can hear me before I talk to this. This is me running my own show, no question. So let's talk to the nice Skype lady. Hi, Skype lady. Thanks for having me talk to you recording. And I'm hoping that when I listen to this, that I'll hear myself blabbering on about whatever it is that we just talked about. Thank you so much. Lady, thanks for having me talk to you. See, that sounds nice. So no problems there. Let's call in now, because I call in the same way you call in to this this call-in thing that I've got. Just so let's see if I can get into this as well. Do I need a pound sign? Probably do.
Enter your 6-digit.
I will.
Welcome.
Welcome. Welcome. It said welcome. So it's good. So this is something you can call into. I think hit the wrong button there for the phone line. It's 855-785-RJ45 if you wanted to call into the phone line on those. Or you can ask the question in the chat room, because I'm watching the chat room on ProfessorMesser.com/live. There's a live event chat that I'm watching, so we can see this on here for these pieces. So some of you are German. Do you recommend studying and taking the exam in English, as there's more material available to study? One interesting thing is that if you are a different language than English language, we expect the 900 series English language to be released at the end of this calendar year. We will probably see foreign languages come out after that. So you probably don't want to wait. Just take the 800 series in that case. You'll want to check in with CompTIA occasionally and make sure that's still going to be the case. I don't think they're going to release all languages on day one. Traditionally, they don't. They could call me a liar on this one. They could change it around, but I really don't think that will be the case for those. So that is good. Now, some of you are also asking about performance-based questions, which is also a common request. Performance-based questions on the exam are questions that don't take the traditional multiple choice. So they might be fill in the blank. They might be matching. For those particular cases, you just need to know the material for those. I think that's one where you do have certainly an opportunity you really need to know, because they could just ask you to fill in the blank, or you have to match things on the screen, or they could pop you a command prompt and you have to type something into a command prompt. So as much hands-on as possible is really going to be the key. Oh, sure. There is a German version of the 800 series exam. It's been out for some time, and you can absolutely take that currently. That has been out for quite some time, so you shouldn't have a problem with those. Let's go to the phones, shall we? And see, how do I keep missing this? Is this set up to loop? It is set up to loop. I've got to change this to not loop. Yeah, let's see if that will stay on the screen now. I don't think it will, actually. Oh, let's change this to here. There we go. Nope, flipped over. This is one of those where had I just configured it properly before getting on, you would have done this. But if you're on professormesser.com/live, I do also have the phone number there as well. Let's go to the phone lines and see who happens to be here. I have someone on the 419 area code. Are you there? Caller, what's your name?
Hi, this is Noah.
Hey, Noah. Thanks for calling. What can we do for you?
Hi, I had a question about memory timing.
Okay.
Specifically DDR2 memory. Let's suppose I had some PC2 6400 rated at 800 megahertz.
Sure.
Installed into my motherboard. My question is, when I pull up CPU-Z, it's a program that shows me all sorts of specs for the hardware that I have installed.
Right.
It says that my DRAM frequency is running at 399.9 megahertz, or I guess essentially 400 megahertz. And my question is, why is that?
Why is it not what you would expect it to be? And one of the things with DDR memory that we have, these are the memory modules we're putting onto our motherboard themselves. This memory is set up to run at a particular clock rate. It has its own internal clock rate, and it also has a clock rate it uses to communicate with everything else on the motherboard. And that's generally the number we're interested in most importantly, is how fast are we able to move information back and forth from memory to the other components, generally the CPU of our computer and back. Because the faster we can get that going, the much better performance we're going to have inside of our computers. So you will find that computers don't have to run at that exact memory speed that we have on that memory module. It could run slower. And it might run slower from a number of different reasons. One might be your motherboard only supports it running at a slower speed. You might have bought fast memory, but it's not going to run at that fast speed because the motherboard won't support that faster speed. But probably, and I've seen this whenever I'm building my own computers, the BIOS can also set the memory speeds as well. So you need to look into the BIOS configurations, because some, especially some of the newer motherboards, allow you to tweak the memory faster or slow it down, and you can set the memory up to have different settings. So it could be that your BIOS is not configured to use it at the faster speed either. The third piece, of course, could be that CPU-Z is just wrong, which is unusual. It isn't often, but sometimes if you look in the BIOS, it will tell you what the memory is running at, and that should be your final. This is exactly what it's currently set to, and the BIOS isn't going to lie to you in that regard. And hopefully it's one of those things. Which one do you think it is in your system?
I think it might be the BIOS, because I have a front side bus on my CPU is rated at 333.
Okay. And that's
rated front side bus says 1331.45.
Okay. So you've already got some settings there on what the minimum is going to be, unless you can change that in the BIOS, and that will at least tell you, here's how fast I'm ever going to be able to get memory to run on that motherboard.
Okay.
And any other questions?
Nope, that was my question.
That's a good one. If you're troubleshooting memory, and in fact, I think it was a question on Reddit this week where somebody was talking about this. It might have been the chat room here. It all blends together in my mind over time, where they did that very thing. They built a computer and had been running it for 6 months, and realized when they built it, they didn't change the BIOS to use the faster memory speed. So you might even be able to get, if your motherboard supports it, you may be able to get some extra speed out of it just by doing that. Thanks, Noah, for calling. Great. Sure appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's a common one. You'll run into DDR on both the A+ exam and on the for the 800 series and the 900 series. In fact, the 900 series, you have to know DDR, DDR2, and DDR3. And I think they've gotten a little better about forcing you down the road of doing all the crazy calculations. I've certainly simplified things a lot on my 900 series videos, which I know you can't see yet, but maybe when you're watching the replay, those will be available to you, and have those on those pieces. The memory thing is a little bit of a crazy world because it's a science unto itself. And for DDR and DDR2 and DDR3, there's different nuances between all of those. So we want to be able to work through those pieces as well. Let's go to the chat room and see what we're working through this. The big question, and this has come up a couple of times, not a couple of times, it comes up every hour. Now that the 900 series exam objectives are out, is should we study and get the 800 series exam? I don't know why you want to take it in a month and a half, though. You've got effectively 6 months before we would ever see the 800 series exams disappear. But the question is, do I wait? And let me answer the do I wait question, because I think that's the important thing. You don't want to wait. And my rule of thumb is never wait to get certified. You're obviously trying to get certified for a reason. You want to have a better job. You need to get a job. You want to move up in your organization. You just want to be better with the job that you're doing. So there are a lot of reasons why you would not want to wait at this point. If you're watching this live on November the 4th of 2015, you've got at least 6 months before you would ever see this existing CompTIA exam disappear. And there's so much more upside to be certified than there is downside. Why would you want to wait and delay that process? Get your certification as soon as you can so that you can start benefiting from having the certification. Now, obviously, maybe some people I think might have a boss, and the boss will say, "Yeah, I don't want you taking the old exam. I want you taking the new exam." Okay, that's different. Then maybe you do want to wait a couple of months and start studying on the newer exam. I get that. I understand that, but I imagine that's kind of rare to run into that. I don't know why the question also you restated. If you start studying this month, is it better to study really hard and take it at the end of the month? I'm not sure where the end of the month thing is, because the 800 series exam is going to be around at least until probably June of 2016. So I don't think you don't have to hurry on this. There's always an overlap. CompTIA always gives you more time because they don't want to cut you off either. You might be starting to study today, and suddenly tomorrow they come out with a new exam, and all this work you've been doing, you can't do anything with? No, they give you a nice overlap so you can continue to work. And whether you take the 800 series exams or the 900 series exams and pass them, you get exactly the same certification. It's not called A+ 800 or A+ 900. It's called A+. So it doesn't matter which one you take. You get exactly the same thing. So there's no downside. In fact, there's a little bit more content on the 900 series exam you would have to study. So you might be able to get the same certification for knowing less on the 800 series. So you're kind of using that system of new exams to your benefit. You've got some overlap. If you think you can get that certification done in 6 months, start studying for the 800 series now and go pass it. Now, if you're someone who takes a long time to certify, I'm someone who takes a year. When I start planning to certify for something, if it's not, urgently needed for some particular thing I'm doing, it takes me a long time because I got other stuff going on. I'm trying to fit it in, but it's important to me, and I do finally get it done. And it could take 9 months. It could take a year for me to finally get that down. Well, obviously, the 800 series exam will be gone in a year. We're all pretty sure about that. So if that's the case, you might want to wait for the 900, but it's got to be a rare occasion for one of those things to happen for you to want to have that wait in place. There's too many benefits. Don't wait to get that there. It's just a really important thing to have that piece there. The 900 series exam objectives are very, very similar to the 800. So even if you were working on the 800 and the 900 series come out and you thought, I was going to do 800, but now I think I really want to do the 900. You're really moving over into the 900 without losing too much and without having to read a whole lot of new things. You don't have to start over. Now, the big differences, obviously, on the 902 is that the Windows XP operating system is no longer on that exam. It obviously is on the 800 series. Windows 8 and 8.1 is on the new exam. It's not on the old one. So there is a big difference on the 902, 802 changeover. The 901, 801, it's very, very similar. There's some new interfaces added, some new connectivity. The format of it is different, and the troubleshooting part is different. Troubleshooting is now on both exams. And so the exams are standalone exams now. So you may want to think about that as well, that you could start for 800. If you did want to change, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But you do want to be sure that you have the right content. You are not going to be able to use your 800 series exam study materials to pass the 900 series. It's not going to work for you. You need to get 900 series materials if you plan on taking the 900 series exam. And I'm hoping to have a huge chunk of that done by the time that happens. And certainly, I'm in production every day. I shot 6 videos yesterday. So we are churning through content. There's a lot of videos already on YouTube, already uploaded, already ready to go. I flip a switch and they become public. They're private right now. So there's a lot of work going on to get the 900 series materials available for you. And I'm sure there will be books available as well. There'll be other things that you could get when those exams are available. So don't worry too much about that piece. Just try to decide what's important from a career perspective or from the goal that you're setting for yourself. What is it you want to be able to do? And that's what should be answering the question for you, not time frames. Now, if you're watching this video and it's April of 2016, okay, you may want the 900 series out. Just take the 900 series. There were a lot of people that waited because the Network Plus exam just converted over. It retired in August of this year. There were a lot of people that literally waited until the last possible day to take the old exam on August the 31st. So, geez, that's tough. That was a do or die situation. It was all or nothing, because if they failed that, they would now have to study for the newer exam, which is a bit different than the old one. You would effectively kind of have to start over, find the things that were different. It would have been a different study experience, certainly. So that scenario for those pieces, really a challenge. So that's really a piece that's really important there. No, the 900 series tests will be out in December, not June. They will be out very shortly. I'm thinking December, January. That's my best guess. The 900 series exams will be available then, and you'll be able to take both of them for the next 6 months. Not just one of them, both of them will be available, which brings up a whole nother set of confusing questions that I get, which is, why are there 2 exams? Do I take all 4 of them? So that's a different set of problems. We'll talk about that when they're released to be able to work through those pieces. Question in the chat room. So if we're talking small office, home office, which is an entire section of the first domain of the 801 or the 901 exam, certainly. Questions about printers. Which is the most inexpensive option for printers, laser or inkjet? Well, certainly the printing process and the mechanics of the device, the inkjet is a less expensive proposition. Laser printers are a bit more expensive from not only the ability to have the unit itself, because it's a more complex printer. It has a lot more moving parts. There's heat involved. There's a lot of power involved. The cost per paper isn't really, it's very similar between the two. It's difficult to come up with a cost per printed page cost, but certainly on a longer term, there's a lot more maintenance that goes into a laser printer. Although I got to tell you, if you bought ink lately, I think inkjet's pretty expensive too, isn't it? But I would say if I had to choose between one of those, it is the inkjet that is the least expensive between those two, certainly. But of course, it all depends. I could have a big fancy inkjet printer and a very small laser jet. That's a bad question. If somebody's asking you the question on a practice exam, you should ignore it completely because it's just a bad question. There's got to be more context involved to be able to answer a question like that and be able to work through it. You just don't know with those pieces and being able to work through them. Oh, good. Well, I've got a brother laser as well. I'm hoping it lasts me a very long time. 8 years would be great. Chat room, someone says, yeah, they've had theirs for 8 years. You've only changed the toner once in 8 years. I go through toner like it's a bad situation. I just have toners stacked up because, well, I'm doing all my manufacturing here. So if you're someone who gets one of my courses, I don't have the box here, but if you get my courses, I do all the manufacturing here. So everything is put together. The content is put onto flash drives, and all of the printing is done here, and all of the boxing of everything is all done here. So I go through the color toner pretty well. I am very good at replacing toner. In fact, I took a lot of pictures of my laser printer, and they're in the 900 series exam, my exam videos, because I've got, you want to see what this is like? Let me open it up. Here's the fusing assembly. Right here. Oh, you want to see duplexing? Here's my duplexer. Nothing better than that, being able to use those. And don't ever use an off-brand ink or toner. It just isn't worth the money. Probably not. That's not entirely true. It's very, very often not worth the money. It's very, very, very often very much not worth the money. We'll have to see in working with those. There's gaming questions already hitting the chat room. Now, those of you that kind of follow this for a while, there's a lot that we do here. This is where everything happens. So all the gaming, all of the videos are shot here. Everything we do in Messer Studios kind of happens mostly here. Although there's also my marketing team is not based here; they're based somewhere else. But they handle kind of a lot of the marketing things for me and creation of content. And this is where if we want to have a Xbox versus PlayStation argument, this indeed would be the place to do it. We're not going to have it now because, we're not, because it's pointless. Sort of like the same reason we don't have a which is better, an Apple operating system or a Windows operating system or a Linux operating system. They're all bad. Every single one of those operating systems is bad. There you go. Think we answered that one, didn't we? That's what I answer all the time now. Is they're all horrible. There's nowhere to go at that point. You're done. No, they're all great. And they're all used for different things. If you're on my website right now, you're on a Linux machine. So I'm loving my Linux. It's awesome. If you are watching this screen right now, my video switcher is a Windows machine. Windows is awesome because I can switch between these views from this Windows device through this USB connected control panel. That's great. I can do all of this. I click a button and you're able to see streaming video. If you see any of my videos and you watch any of my videos on YouTube, they're all produced on a Mac. So it just depends on what you're trying to do with that. Now, Emacs versus Vim. Now we can have a conversation about how Vim is so much more better than anything you would ever use ever in the history of ever. So now we can have a fight about those pieces. Linux certification. Well, there's a good question, actually. There are a number of different Linux certifications that you'll find out there. The CompTIA has one that was actually made by someone else. So CompTIA has their Linux Plus. It's actually not called Linux Plus. It's Linux Plus powered by LPI. And the reason it's called Linux Plus powered by is because it's not a CompTIA written exam. They effectively went to LPI, which is an organization that has Linux certifications, and says, can we just use your test and we'll stick our name on it? And ostensibly they're paying them some licensing fee for that. I don't know. I'm sure they must. There's some arrangement that they have, and they're able to provide this as the Linux Plus. And it's a pretty good exam, but it's not a CompTIA exam. And I say that because CompTIA exams have a certain flavor to them. They have a certain way that they are constructed. And this is not a CompTIA exam. It's an LPI exam. If you went to LPI and took their entry-level Linux, it's exactly the same exam. Exactly the same course notes or the course exam objectives, same everything with those pieces. So that's one where when you do get into it, it's a similar thing. Now, you will find in the enterprise, Red Hat has a pretty big footprint. The Red Hat exams are exams that are in very much demand by the industry. So if you're getting into Linux or you want to make yourself more marketable on the Linux side, Linux Plus is good and it's well recognized and people like it primarily because they know it's from LPI. And Red Hat, though, I think if you go out to the monster.coms and the dice.coms and you go look at what people are asking for and just do a little bit of research, you'll see a lot of Red Hat pop up. So that may be another one of those where choosing the right certification might get you in front of more people. But if you know the Red Hat stuff on the Red Hat exam, you may be able to walk into the Linux Plus exam and do really, really well. There are some differences, obviously, between Red Hat's implementation of Linux and some of the things that are asked of you on the Linux Plus exam. But that's one where I think that does come in handy in being able to work with those and having those better. So questions about the setup. People ask this a lot, which is there's a lot happening here. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 screens in front of me. 9, 10 if you count the screens that are on my cameras. And there's lights, there's speakers, there's a lot of stuff going on here. There's down here, you can see there's recording going on with the Cylons down here. There's other equipment, networking and video switching and headphone amplifying and all kinds of stuff down here. Audio. I've got audio running on Linux. It's the craziest thing you've ever seen. What I'm thinking of doing is at the end of the calendar year, there's that gap of time between Christmas and New Year's Day, where it's just kind of a slow time. That may be a good time to do a tour or to make a video of a tour of really what we have here, because it's a remarkable setup and it works very well for what I'm doing. And what we have, I think it's now I'm in the mode where I can just sit down, turn the lights on. I can sit at my desk and do everything. I can change the temperature. I can turn the lights on and off. I can really make everything run. I can open up the bottom sides of my desk and turn on recording systems, hit a button, and do these videos, which is ideally what I wanted to be able to do for you. So I need to be able to produce content as easily and quickly as possible. So that is my plan, is do a video of all of these things and being able to do that. CentOS isn't exactly the free version of Red Hat, but it's, I think, close enough for us talking about it. It's actually these days, it used to be very closely related. It's not as closely related these days as you would think, but it's close enough, I think. For what we're talking about, close enough. Why do so many of the networking people I come across scoff at A+ and preach Cisco, Cisco, Cisco? What a good question, because I hear that too, obviously. Cisco, Cisco, Cisco. Well, first, the A+ certification and anything that Cisco's providing, almost everything Cisco's providing, those are two very different worlds along those lines. If you really want to mess up these people talking Cisco, 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 Cisco has a course called Cisco IT Essentials. Guess what exam it is? The A+ exam. It's the same thing. They've gotten with CompTIA. They got together, same exam objectives, same content. It's in a different format. It's arranged differently. It's the A+ exam. So if somebody's really on there, Cisco is awesome and I should do everything Cisco, and I'm incapable of thinking otherwise, you could say, well, good, because I'm taking an exam that Cisco loves so much that they're using it themselves and calling it the Cisco IT Essentials. So that's plus A+. It's a very different set of fundamentals than the Cisco exams are, the other Cisco exams other than IT Essentials. Cisco, obviously, very focused on networking. There's a bit of a security component. There's voice over IP. There's so much other things. And that's certainly important. And I think understanding networking, you should have that fundamental understanding regardless of what you do in IT, because the network touches everything. So I think there's value to Cisco certifications. There's value to Juniper certifications. There's value to Extreme certifications, value to those other companies making the networking technologies. But there's also a need to understand fundamentals of operating systems and starting things up. And a lot of people who say the A+ isn't worth anything, I have found 99.9% of the time they don't have an A+ certification. They've never gone through the process of learning all of these things. I worked in technology for years, like a 10, 15 years before I got my A plus certification, doing things in help desks, implementing servers, implementing workstations, operating systems. I sat down and started studying for my first A plus certification and was blown away at what I didn't know. And I had to learn about all of those things I didn't know. And even operating systems. If your operating system loses its master boot record, how do you fix that? I know how to fix that. I'm A plus certified. How do you resolve a problem with the volume boot sector? How do I resolve and understand the differences in what's available in my BIOS and all of the things associated with fixing Windows and now fixing Linux and Mac OS? So those things are important as well. There's a ton of content in the A+ that's important to know. There are a number of people working in networking who really don't know operating systems. They never learn that content. And you can tell when they're sitting down trying to figure out details of fixing the thing in the operating system, it really hurts. So I think having that fundamental knowledge of operating systems and hardware can only help you when it comes to networking. And I say that as someone who did that exact job and working along those lines and knowing those things. Very, very useful to have that there. And I am Cisco certified. I have Cisco certifications under my belt. I have Palo Alto Network certifications. I have CompTIA certifications. I have Microsoft certifications. I got VMware certifications. I got a bunch of different kinds. So I'm not saying anyone is better or less than the other. The value of a certification is what you do with it. And if you're going to take a certification and that's going to get you a job, I really don't care what you take. If Cisco gets you the better job, go take the Cisco. If that's what you want to do. I mean, ultimately, that's the decision. Cisco is networking. If you don't like networking, go get a Microsoft certification, get a CompTIA certification. But ultimately, there's got to be a goal there that you've already thought about for those and getting that there. So if you pass the 801, you did not pass the 802, and is it still time to start over studying for the 802 and taking it? Well, you can take the 802 up until the point where the 802 is not available anymore. They're going to retire the 802 somewhere in the middle of next year. Somewhere in 2016, well into 2016, at least 6 months from now, I would think. So if that's the case, you have all that time to study and pass your 802. Once the 802 is retired, though, you're going to have to start over. So that would make sense. You already spent all that time on the 801. You really should study and get the 802 so that you've got your A+ certification there. I think that's useful to have that there. Hey, is your Windows 95 cert still valid and marketable? It is valid and marketable for all the people still running Windows 95. There you go. So interestingly enough, I say that a bit sarcastically because it was an easy one. But there are some technologies where you can make a lot of money knowing the old technology. I don't think Windows 95 is one of those, but there are a number. I remember when Microsoft really took over the server arm of everything, and they became the default server that you would put in your enterprise, primarily driven by Microsoft Exchange. That was really what drove that. There were a lot of people still running Novell NetWare, which was the big operating system of the time. One thing that you'll just always see in our industry is constant change. So Novell was the thing to have. So there was so much Novell NetWare in the market and so many people putting in the Windows. Everybody went over and got their Windows certification and became very knowledgeable on Windows. And people stopped learning about NetWare. So there ended up being these sections of people who are very knowledgeable, who are smart enough to go out and start their own business and charge people a lot of money to maintain these legacy systems. It was beautiful. So there's opportunities with these legacy technologies where you can really take advantage of that. Obviously, your business model there is very limited. You're only going to have so much time in that business model to make money, and then it's just going to drop off. But boy, that just made sense for them at the time. So there might be some technologies you can really make some money on as things change. It's a way, something to think about anyway. There are certainly niches of opportunity that you will find in there with those. So chat room's asking about some Linux Plus course notes. Those would be good course notes, by the way. In fact, my next plan after I do A+, is I think I'm going to create some course notes without actually having a course. We're going to see if people like them. I don't think they're going to be Linux Plus, however. I'm sorry to say. I apologize. It will be some different course notes. But I'm going to see if people like that. That may be a way that I can provide some content, some help for people studying, and not necessarily have videos, although I think that's ultimately the idea, is to make some videos so people can really get that on those pieces and have it there. So very, very useful to have that there. I think, cache is important. In the chat room, it's now becoming a discussion about what really is important. Is it your personal knowledge? Is it how much money you make? Is it job satisfaction? What is it? It depends. Depends on who you are. Obviously, in IT, I think the money piece really kind of takes care of itself. At least in the United States, people who are doing technology jobs tend to be paid better than other types of vertical markets. So certainly better than retail. For instance, IT tends to have, on average, a higher salary than retail. I understand that's not always the case. I'm giving some very broad perspectives of the world, and your mileage may vary, certainly, but IT tends to be paid very well. And depending on what you do in IT, you can move up and move up and move up, and there's really, the sky is the limit. As far as revenue and making money in that, which means ultimately that it comes back to what you like to do. And I think the money part takes care of itself. I think the important part for you is to find something you like doing. And what's going to be interesting, of course, is that's not going to be any one thing for your entire career. If you work on an assembly plant and your job is to put the widget on, that's all you ever do. Very rarely do you now move up and work in the accounting department. You might move around and do the other kind of widget on the other side, but it's very limited. You can't really go anywhere with that. Whereas with IT, you can start in the help desk. You can go work with the workstations. You can move to the server team. You can work with the network team. You can work with security. You can work with the database team. You can work with the data center. You see where I'm going with that. You can really just keep moving and changing as time happens. I did not think when I started at John Alden Life Insurance in their help desk that a few years later there would be this internet thing and I'd be able to sit at home and make videos and put them on YouTube and be able to eat. I would have never thought. It's a bit of a weird place, but the world changed. Now there's a Facebook and a Twitter and an Instagram and all these other things that didn't exist when I started learning about technology. I was dealing more with mainframes and supercomputers and liquid nitrogen cooled and big printers, and it was not a world like this. So as things change, of course, you're going to find things you like to do. And I find that the money is an important driver, but it tends to take care of itself. In jobs where I have taken a job and I took it, there was more money involved, but it turned out not to be something I liked to do. I ended up leaving in a very short period of time because it's not personally satisfying. And I think I need something that's going to satisfy me at that internal level. My psyche has to be at the right place. My chakra has to be aligned so that the world is good. I like making videos because I think it helps people. So that's a win-win. That there's a revenue stream associated with that, so I can continue to live, but it also is something where people are getting a benefit. I wish we could all do that. I think we could all do that to some degree. I specifically built this business model to do that. If I can do it, you certainly can as well, and make that happen. And it may not be something that you do tomorrow. It may not even take a year. For me, it took many years, but there's a path. I drew it on a piece of paper and said, here's what we're going to do. Here's our map. I'm going to draw a map of what we're going to do. Year 1, I'm going to do this. In 2 years, we should be here. In 5 years, we should be here. And it worked. Can you believe it? You make a plan and you execute to the plan, and it worked. Now, did the plan change as we moved? Yeah, plan changed a lot, but you keep adjusting and you figure it out. And I think in IT, perhaps more than any other vertical market that I can think of off the top of my head, and IT gives you more opportunity to do that than anywhere else. Even I think of medicine, I think of transportation, I think of government, I think of anything else, finance. You look at all those different markets. Education, I think IT is the one that really gives you the most amount of flexibility. My perspective. What do I know? I could be wrong, but I'm not. There is, let's check also the chat room. Dot matrix printers. I just finished editing the dot matrix printer video on the 901 exam materials. In the chat room, we're still talking about printers. Green bar paper is the future, says Brandon. It's actually it is the future. I have to agree with Brandon. If I used to travel a lot, I have well over 1 million miles on Delta, and combining all the other airlines I would fly, probably 1 million miles on those. A lot of international travel, and that's why I don't do it anymore, because that'll kill you. So I don't do that. But when I did, one thing I noticed is that the transportation vertical, since we're talking about verticals, rental cars and airlines, it's all dot matrix printers. Have you seen this stuff? Now, when you get your tickets, the people that are still doing physical tickets, most of those are thermal printers these days. But have you looked to see before the pilot is getting on the plane, there's a printer behind every single gate. And there's a printout that comes out for the pilot as he's getting onto that flight that gives him a summary of, everything. It tells him, everything that's going to be happening in his life for the next number of time. And it gives him everything. It's all tractor fed. Some of it's green bar, most of it's white, but it's all dot matrix printers. All of it. Then you go to the place that you're going to, and there's a rental car, and you go for the rental car. Much of this is also a thermal on a number of these rental car companies, but I've gone to all of them, and a huge percentage of them is printing out the rental car contract on a multiform dot matrix printer. Multiform forms, dot matrix. If we got rid of dot matrix printers, our economy would collapse. We wouldn't be able to fly anywhere. We wouldn't be able to rent any cars. What would we do? Now I realize that's very hyperbolic, because obviously we'd replace it with a different kind of printer. But that's what I'm saying, is that we're still using these things everywhere. Who's making dot matrix printers? They're still making them. Is Oki Data still making dot matrix printers? Some of the old point of sale systems. I guess most of those are thermal these days, but yeah, I still do see some from time to time. They're dot matrix. It's amazing to see that much out there from a dot matrix perspective. It's remarkable. So I will have people, I get letters that are sent to me directly at Professor Messer. They just click the contact us link and they send me messages. I get some good ones, by the way. But I get a lot of people complaining to me that, why are you teaching dot matrix? Why are you teaching Windows XP? Well, of course I'm teaching it because that's what's on the exam, and I'm giving you exactly what you need to pass the exam, certainly. But there's a lot of Windows XP out there. There are millions of devices running Windows XP right now as we're talking live here today. There are tons of dot matrix devices. If you go to work for an airline, you go to work for transportation industry, you're going to find a dot matrix device. If you work in retail, as they're saying here, you're going to have a dot matrix device you're going to run into. You need to understand what to do with it. The point of the A+ exam is not to tell you what all the latest, newest stuff is. It's to give you the skills you need to be able to walk into a technology position and be able to be functional. And I think some of these older technologies are important to know. Now, some are not on the exam. I could point to a few things on the exam. I'm thinking, why are we going through this? I'm with you. There's very few examples of that. Most of the stuff, the vast majority of what's in the A+ exam is spot on. You'll just find it everywhere. So just when you think there's none of these things out there, you'll go to an airport, you'll see the pilot pull his printout off of the dot matrix printer. You get on the plane, the person in front of you opens their laptop and it's running Windows XP, and then you realize that's why it's on the exam. I got it now. I understand. That's key. Yeah, military is a good example. Military is not going to change things around. You don't want to do that. It takes a while to make those changes. Let's see who's calling me now from the 267 area code. Are you there, caller? What's your name?
Hi, my name is Austin.
Hey, Austin. Thanks for calling. What can we do for you?
Yes, I have a question concerning boot any files, and fixing them in safe mode. I heard that was a question on the A plus exam. Somebody told me about that. How would you go about fixing boot any files in safe mode? How would you go about doing that?
This is an important consideration on the A plus exam. If you go look at the 220802 is the exam this is on, and if you haven't done it already, and I'm speaking very generically to everyone who's watching this, you should have a copy of the exam objectives. This should be the first thing you do, is get a copy of the exam objectives. You can go to CompTIA's website, go to the Google machine, type in CompTIA exam objectives, or go to professormesser.com/objectives, and I will redirect you to the proper page on the CompTIA website. This tells you everything you would ever need to know for the exam. I mean, everything in excruciating detail. I'm just scrolling through it here as we're going. There's all the command lines, for example. Everything you'd have to know to be able to get these things going and making them happen. And this is where you have to know how to fix things on the exam. Now, whenever you talk about something where you're troubleshooting, especially things like boot.ini, which is a Windows XP thing, that's obviously going to drop off the map whenever we get to the latest exam. But one of the problems that you'll have are things like the startup process. There is a troubleshooting problems relating to motherboards, RAID arrays, video systems, wireless networks, operating system problems. And one of those is in section 4.6 of the 220802 are things like missing NT loader and missing boot.ini. So when you hear that this could possibly be on the exam, this is not unsubstantiated conjecture. This really is specifically listed on the exam objectives as here's something you need to know. Now, at that point, what's useful is all of my videos are labeled or numbered with these exact numbers. So you should be able to go to this exact video, like version 4. Video 4.6, and there's probably at least a couple of videos in 4.6 that talk about boot.ini. And if you do that, you will find that I talk about boot errors, boot.ini errors. And in this particular case, I had to kind of think about what CompTIA was trying to tell you is that if it's a Windows Vista machine or Windows 7, and indeed Windows 8 and 10 as well, there's something called the boot configuration database. So this particular boot configuration database piece does allow you to change and update the boot configuration with bootcfg/rebuild. Now, if it's just a boot.ini, then you can simply edit your boot.ini file as well. Although bootcfg rebuild can also rebuild a boot.ini file. So that may be a good way to go about fixing a number of these problems you'll run into. That's one way that you could take something you hear about an exam objective, or this is what I hear we should be working on, and you should be able to drill down to exactly what that exam objective is and where it happens to be. Oh, it's in section 4.6, and it says missing boot.ini. Okay, well, I need to now go to anything that has section 4.6. If you're not watching my videos, grab your book, and in your book, there's going to be a cross-reference that talks about what that particular topic is associated with as well. So those are a couple of things that you can do to help work through where to find that information. And in your particular case, that actually even tells you where some of the answers are for resolving that. Does that make sense, Austin?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Absolutely. And good luck with that 802 exam. Let us know how it goes.
All right, definitely. Thank you, Professor. It's been a big help.
Take care. There's a lot there. Boy, on the 4.6 section, common symptoms. In fact, they have added to the things you have to know to troubleshoot on the 900 series exam. They've got, and what they did was break it up so that the 901 exam now has troubleshooting. The 902 exam has troubleshooting, but it's troubleshooting the things you learned on that exam. So now they really are standalone exams. You can take the 901 and you're just done with that content. Then you can really focus on the 902, and it's really just 902 content. There's very little overlap between those any longer with those. Very, very useful to have that. I think very easy now for us to do that. Can one get a job with just the 801 while working to pass the 802? Or is it better to buckle down and get the 802 first while not working? Really, most people want to see the certification. They want to see it completely done. I don't think any employers are interested that you only passed half of it. They want you to pass the whole thing. Then you can show up and say, yes, I have my A+ certification. So having half of it's not going to get you very far. Even though you know half of it and you passed half of it, you clearly know that half. They don't really care. They really want to see the A+, and that you were able to get the whole thing in there and be able to work with it. So I would recommend get the entire thing. In fact, it's really not even worth putting, hey, I got my 220-801 certification. Putting that on a resume doesn't help very much. I guess it might, but I don't know. It's almost like I only did something halfway. I'm not sure I want to tell people that either. Even if you're working on it, I'm not sure I would promote it in that way. People may take it the wrong way. Oh, pardon me. So, printers. Is there a better way to clean out the inside of a laser printer? Compressed air or an ESD safe computer vacuum? There's no good way to clean out the inside of a laser printer. There's your answer. There's no good way to do it. Which is better? Neither of those is good. I mean, ultimately, if there's so much toner that you just couldn't, and blowing it out, no, don't blow anything out of a laser printer. I guess you'd have to take the printer outside, but even when you did that, the toner would go everywhere. Don't use compressed air inside of a laser printer. That's just a bad scene. Now, if you're trying to get out something else, maybe there's paper. I just can't think of a good reason why I'd do that. I think vacuuming it out is always the better idea. And there are some toner vacuums, because toner is a very fine dust. So you need not only a vacuum that is not going to shock everything, so it does need to be ESD safe, but it needs to be a vacuum that can handle the toner. So it's a little bit different than a traditional anti-static vacuum machine. You need anti-static and one that has a very fine method of pulling the toner in. Otherwise, it will vacuum the toner and it'll go through the bag, the vacuum bag, and then blow back out. And you don't want that happening either. Boy, what a mess that would be, wouldn't it? That's not what you want to shoot for. Do I have podcasts or non-YouTube or offline training that you can listen to during the commute? I do sell my MP3 files for $99. And if you wanted to get the entire course plus the MP3 files so you can take videos with you, it's $199. So I do. That's the deal. So I can give you for free online, or there's a premium product that you can get to purchase to take with you for those very reasons as well. It becomes useful, I think, to have those with you. And then make it so that you can put them everywhere. So you can put the videos on all your devices, put the MP3s on all your devices. So no matter where you are, you can listen in, you can watch, instead of trying to figure out how to do that. Just a pain. Question about the 900 series. Is M2 a standard mentioned on the 900 series? First, you should know that the 900 series exam objectives is out. So you should be able to look through everything that's in the 900 series exam to see what's there. I think MSATA is on the exam, but I don't think M2 is. I'm thinking back. I don't believe M2 is part of it. But you can download the exam objectives and go through that piece and see what's there and see if that's something that makes sense for you. Because that may be worthwhile to look at too, just to be familiar with the 900 series. But let's go to the phones. 937 area code. Are you there, caller?
Yes, I am.
Hey, what's your name?
Oh, my name's Garrett Schumacher.
Hey, Garrett. Thanks for calling. What can we do for you?
I was just curious. Do you still host your study sessions on Saturdays?
So that's a good question. I switched over from Saturdays to Wednesdays, I guess it was a number of months ago, for a couple of reasons. But whenever we do study groups now, if you go to professormesser.com/calendar, you'll see that all the study groups are now on Wednesdays at the same time. It's noon Eastern time, but now they're Wednesdays during the week. And I realize that doesn't necessarily work into everyone's schedule exactly the way that they would hope, because a lot of people are working during the day. But it just became, there were things on my side that were not allowing me to do it on Saturday as much. And instead of not doing it, I thought, we'll just make it so that at least I can get them done and we'll have replays available.
Okay, sounds good. I already have my A Plus, Network Plus, and Security Plus
Wow,
certifications.
congratulations.
Oh, thanks. Do you know if they're updating Server Plus? Because that's the other CompTIA certification I'm interested in obtaining.
I just read about Server Plus, and I'm trying to remember if it was an update or not, because I don't have a course on it. I don't stay as up to date on it as I probably should, and I'm in the middle right now of creating A Plus content, so everything else sort of blurs out. It's just a buzzing noise in my ear lately. So I'm not quite sure, but the CompTIA website should be able to figure that piece out. And it's something I get a lot of questions about too, because a lot of people who get their A plus and the other certifications also want to get a Server Plus too. And it seems to have gotten a lot more popularity most recently. I should probably go out and do more research to see who's asking for it and if it might be worthwhile to make a video series on it, because that might be useful, I think.
Yeah, either that or Storage Plus, because I think that's an upgrade to the Security Plus.
It is.
I was debating to get that one, but I'm military. Since I took Server Plus through the VA, I just figured I'd finish up that certification as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's kind of where I see a lot of the requirements for those, that both military and U.S. government certainly have certain certifications they'd love to see you have. And those are some good examples of some of those. I do plan on coming out with some new content on a new set of courses after the A Plus is done. So somewhere in the January, February timeframe, you should see some new content. Unfortunately, it's not going to be Server Plus. It's not going to be Storage Plus, but it will be something new. So hopefully it's on the list and we can kind of get down that road to those eventually, I'm hoping.
I see. Do you still have your videos on the Linux Plus? I think you used to have those up.
They are still up on my website. On the right side is a list of all the categories of my site, and the Linux section's still there. I never remove any of my old videos. They're always out there, archived away, even if they're not on the very front page of my website. And I'd love to do more of the Linux videos too. They were extremely popular, and the only reason I put them on hiatus was so I could get some of these other projects done. But now that A Plus is coming out, there's a gap of time between when the next update will occur for Network Plus or Security Plus. So it's going to be a good time to start creating some newer content. I hope to do more of those too.
Yes, I think Network Plus and Security Plus updated last year, correct?
That's right.
In 2014?
Yep.
Yes, as I remember, because I took mine Network Plus and Security Plus in April of last year. So then it's just like, okay, I forgot all about the update since I already had the certification.
Right, and it's going to be
I
another
was
couple years before we even see those changing. So there's a big chunk of time I could sit around and do nothing, or I could actually be productive, and I think you know which direction I'm going.
Oh, yes.
That's
yes,
great.
I'm trying to finish up my Cisco and Server Plus now and the Certified Ethical Hackers, so I'm always keeping busy.
That's all good then. I will keep that in mind, especially those specific courses, because when I sit down with my team and we figure out what's next and what's going to be the next after that for the next 3 years, we need to understand what we're going to be working on too. And getting comments like yours helps us understand what's the popularity of these and what direction should we go. So I appreciate that, Garrett.
Oh, you're very welcome.
And thanks for calling. Take care.
Oh, yes, you too.
There's so many places to go with that too. So for those of you kind of interested in what it is, where does it go? How do I figure it out? This is where I have to kind of figure out where are the places to go to have quality. We need some quality videos. There's a lack of it for some reason. We run into situations where there is also not as much available for people to watch. And there's a whole quality thing as well. I think whenever I start working with trying to figure it out, I have this little formula I use. And the formula changes depending on what I'm really focusing on and what the content is. But it might be, do I go a direction that has these particular videos associated with it, or I don't. And it may be, especially for, I don't know, working through Microsoft, for instance. There's so much Microsoft content out there. Does it make sense for me to make Microsoft videos? Well, for some topics it might, and for some topics it might not. So I have to kind of figure out in my mind which direction to go. And it's also based on how many people are interested in it. You know, if I do a server plus, how many people would watch a server plus? Because there's a component to it as well that I need people viewing it so that I can get the revenue to keep making more videos. So it sort of lends itself together to keep doing that over and over and over again. I like going through that process though, because it makes me think about where the industry is going to. If there's something new in the industry, that might be a good opportunity to make some new content. So I go through that all the time. And does it need to be training materials? Does it need to be other kinds of materials? So we go back and forth on those things as well, and figuring out those pieces. I think it's a good process to go through every now and then to figure it out. And I wouldn't be able to do it. That's what I'm getting back to. Would not be able to do it unless you provided me with the feedback. So having you say, here's what I need to be able to do. I need Server Plus. I need Storage Plus. I need CCNA. I need VMware this. I need Microsoft that. That's valuable for me to know, because then I can put that into the equation that I use to figure those pieces out. Okay. Well, that has taken us to the end of another hour. I think the end of my voice. So what a perfect time to wrap things up on the study group and what we're doing. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Of course, you can always get my latest update every day. I send a pop quiz Monday through Friday of what we have as far as A+. So if you're trying to figure out A+, follow my Twitter, professormesser.com/Twitter. Whenever I'm posting, I also have Instagram questions I'll post as well. I'll show you a picture of a diagram, and you have to figure out what that is. I post those also on Twitter or on Instagram. And you can also go to professormesser.com/Instagram, professormesser.com/YouTube, professormesser.com/Google+. Just type in professormesser.com/something, and that will certainly take you there. I want to remind you again, all my course notes are available for A+ at professormesser.com/A+CN. Make sure you get your 1 hour of free lab time from GTS Learning at professormesser.com/live labs. And of course, we do this every month. I do one of these next week. If you're into Network Plus, you can see me here next week. If you're into Security Plus, you'll see me 2 weeks from now. And we just keep doing it over and over. You can find out the latest at professormesser.com/calendar. And that kind of brings us to the end. Thanks, everybody, for a great couple of hours. Thanks for calling in. Thanks for being in the chat room. Thanks for being on Socrative. I could not do it without you. And we'll see you next time on the study group. Thanks.